Hi everyone, my name's Kingsley Oldmeadow. I'm doing a video today to talk about how to run backing tracks on stage. I've been a touring drummer for 10 plus years now, and one question that keeps coming up more and more often is, can I run backing tracks on stage? And whether it be with Damien or Shannon Knoll, majority of the artists I'm playing with nowadays require me to run tracks on stage. So it's always been a little bit of a daunting thing running tracks on stage, but with the equipment that's coming out now with companies like Roland, it's never been easier and more solid to run backing tracks on stage. So I'm going to take you through my setup. The main advantage with this setup is that you have full control over your in-ears or your speaker monitoring system, and most importantly, your click track. That's one thing you want to make sure you never lose. So in this video, I'm going to show you all how to create the backing tracks to go into the pad. I'm going to show you how to import them, and also how to connect everything up with this setup. I hope you enjoy. So, first of all, I'm going to talk you through the equipment that I'm using on stage. The main piece of the puzzle is the Roland SPD-SX sampling pad. This is an awesome bit of equipment that Roland have had out for a few years now. And this is what I use to run all my backing tracks and clicks off. I'm also using a Yamaha MG10XU mixing desk. I've got a Roland TM2 trigger module here, which I'm running 1/4" jacks straight through to a couple of Roland V pads, one mesh head, one rubber, for any samples or sounds like that I'm after. I'm also using a Radial Pro D2, which is a stereo direct box, and I've also got two mono ultra DI boxes. I'm going to explain why I use these DIs a bit later in the video, and I've also got some looming and stuff that I'm using here for all my cables. So let's get into it. I'm going to break the video down into 3 categories. The first is going to be how to create, the second is how to import, and the third is how to connect everything together. So let's get into it. We'll start with creating. Alright, so first of all I'm going to talk briefly about how to create the files to put into the pad. So basically the way that I do it, the easiest way to do it is to have access to the original Pro Tools recorded session of the song, which I have access to in this regard. You need to go into the song, and basically you need to grab everything out that you're not covering on stage with the members that you have, and you need to bounce that down to a WAV file or a WAV file. Once that's bounced down, you then need to go in and bounce down a click track that's the exact same length as the backing track. So if the backing track is 3 minutes 23 seconds long, the click track has to be the exact same amount, bounced into a separate WAV file. That's very important. Once you've created those, they need to be bounced down to a 44.1 kilohertz 16-bit. It needs to be that for the SPD-SX pad to recognize it. So that's one thing that caught us out when we first started doing this. So now that you've created the backing track and the click track, 2 separate WAV files, we want to plug the USB stick into the back of the SPD-SX pad. The first thing you want to do is go into pad and make sure that there's nothing assigned to pad 1 and pad 2. I'm going to be putting my backing track into pad 1 and my click track is going to go into pad 2. If there is already a sample assigned to that pad, it will say check desk pad. So if that comes up, that's the reason for it. As long as there's nothing assigned to those pads, we go back out and we go down to utility. WAV import, and you can see here that we've got the 2 files that I've added. So I'm going to click both of these boxes and press enter, and it's going to ask me where I want to allocate these to. So kit 50 is the one that I'm using. SL stands for Super Love and 127 beats per minute. You can name this whatever you want. This is what I remember. So kit 50 SL is going into pad 1. That's right. So we press enter and we wait for that to upload. Alright, now that the backing track is loaded into pad 1, it's asking for the click track, Super Love. Where do you want that to be allocated? In my case, pad 2. We press enter. Now that they're both uploaded, it says completed. So we press enter. Now on this particular kit, kit 50, I've got the backing track WAV file uploaded to pad 1 and the click track uploaded to pad 2. The first thing I like to do here is go down and name the kit, which is in quick, and you go down to kit name. Press enter. And for this case, I'm just going to do SL for Super Love. Really easy system to navigate through here. SL. So now we go to actually setting up the tracks. Now this same setting that I'm going to do through here applies to every backing track and click track you want to run. If it's just a hit and the backing track starts from the beginning and plays right through to the end, this is the way to set it up. So both of them are in the pads they need to. The first thing we're going to go to is pad. So you can see that you've got 3 tabs down the bottom here. You've got main, mode, and sub. So the first thing we're going to do is just check the main. Make sure that your volume is up at 100. Mute group off, tempo sync off. This is actually all the settings that it comes through factory, so you actually don't need to change anything with this. I go straight across to mode, and I go down and change a few settings here. So the first thing I want to do is set my loop to off. The next thing is the trigger type. I want to set that to alt. The other option is shot. What shot basically means is once I hit the backing track once, it starts. If I hit the backing track button again, another one starts over the top of that, and so on and so forth. So I like to change that to alt, which basically means I hit the pad, it starts. If I hit the pad again, it stops. Another thing is to go down to dynamics and make sure that they're off. Dynamics basically means the softer you hit the pad, the quieter the track starts, and the harder you hit the pad, the louder it is. So I like to turn that off. And sub, nothing needs to be done here. So everything's set up in pad. Now we go across to kit and press enter. So one of the awesome features of this pad is it's got what's called a sub out. So you can take a particular output and send it elsewhere. And you can also reroute in this module itself, which is really handy with running backing tracks and clicks. So the first thing I want to go into is pad 1, which is where I've allocated my backing track. This needs to be exactly where it's on. It needs to be to the master out. In the back of the SPD-SX pad, I've plugged the backing track left and right into the master out. So in regards to routing, I want this to go to master out. It bypasses the effects and goes to the master. It also goes to the phones, which actually stands for the phones in the pad, which I'm not using. My phones are coming from my mixing desk, which I'll explain later. So the backing track is routed to the correct spot. Now we press across and make sure that we're on pad 2 that you can see up the top here. And what we want to do with this is change it through, bypass all the effects, bypass the master, and go straight to sub out and phones. Sub out is the one that we want. Again, phones is for the SPD. I'm not using them. Then we go across to common. And this is the last step with setting up your tracks, and probably the most important one, with an awesome feature Roland have put on this pad called the pad link. So I want to link pad 1 to pad 2. So this is the reason we bounce both the WAV files down for the exact same amount of time. When these pads are synced up together, like this, using pad link, I can hit any of these pads and it starts both of them at the exact same time, and we're not going to have any issues with the click being out of time with the backing track. Really super solid way to set it all up. So now that that's done, you're more or less set for the backing track. Now we're going to move on how to run everything. So now that the backing track and the click track are uploaded into the SPD-SX pad, we need to work out how to run it. So basically what I'm doing in regards to cables is I'm running backing track left and right straight out of the master out. These go down into the left and right input on the DI. Now the advantage of using a DI is for 2 reasons. The first is it gets rid of any noise in your signal. So one thing you want to make sure when you're sending a signal to front of house, you want to make sure that the signal is as clean as it can possibly be. With a lot of electronic interference on stage, a lot of guitar amps, you'll get a lot of noise in your signals if you don't have a good quality DI box, which is imperative, meaning the front of house guys can push the track nice and hard without having a lot of snap, crackle and pops coming through it. So I've got a Radial Engineering Pro D2, which is an unreal, a really clean signal. And the other advantage with these is they've got what's called a through. So basically backing track left and right is coming from the master out in the pad down to the input. And then I'm using the through left and right to send a signal from this back into my mixing desk. And this is the big advantage with this setup, because this then gives me complete control over my volume for my backing track and my click track. Now with the click track, what I'm actually doing in my particular setup on stage, I'm the only person that needs to hear my click track on stage. I think this is a good practice to go by. You don't want too many people on stage interpreting the click. So the way that I'm running it is straight from the left sub out, which we spoke about earlier with the import part. and it's going straight from there via 1/4-inch jack straight into my mixing desk. So I've got full volume control as well as a real simple EQ on my desk of that if I want it to be a bit more toppy to cut through from the track. You can do all that kind of stuff. Basically, I'm using the exact same setup with the TM2 module down here. TM2 left and right is coming from the main left and right outputs. They're going into a DI. Normally I use 2 Pro D2s. Today I'm using 2 mono ultra DIs. You can comprise it of mono DIs if you want, or just use a stereo DI like this. TM2 left and right is going straight out into the DIs and then using the link, sometimes it's also called a through. The through, I'm sending it back into my mixing desk. So the 4 channels I've got in my mixing desk is backing track left and right and TM2 left and right. So this gives me full stereo control over all of my tracks, my sampling, and via the red cable left mono sub out, my click track. So the other advantage with this setup is also that you can get your monitors guy or front of house engineer to send you a mix in to your mixing desk. So you've already saved them a lot of time on not having to send you a backing track, the sampling pad, and your click track. So you can get a line straight into your desk of a full mix with the band, which is what I do. And then you've also got, on a simple desk like this, I've got an EQ that works for either EQing the click track, the backing track, or your mix in from the sound guy. So in regards to the cabling that I'm using for this setup, you want to make sure that all your looms are labeled nicely so you know where everything's going. And once you get this down, it's actually quite simple to do. So basically what I've got is backing track left and right, backing track left desk, backing track right desk. And then I've got TM2 left and right, TM2 right desk, TM2 left desk. So all the ones with desk at the end are essentially the ones that are coming back to my desk. So TM2 left and right are the ones coming out of the mains into the inputs of the DIs, and then using the link or the through, the TM2 right and left desk and backing track right and left desk are the ones coming back to my desk. So now that everything's run, everything's imported into the pad, we've got all of our cables, the last bit of the puzzle is looming. It's really important that you've got a good quality looming setup for this, otherwise you're carrying around a lot of 1/4-inch jacks to every gig. So I've got some of this stuff that I've got from J-Car, it's really good quality, and you can chuck in 5 or 6 cables before it starts to max out. It's just an open up and clamp straight over the cables. I pre-label my cables before I put it into this looming system, and you're pretty much set then to run everything. So the last bit of the puzzle as well is also getting a really good set of in-ear monitors. I've got a set of JH16s, the Jerry Harvey Audio in-ear monitors, and they're molded to my ears and they're unbelievable. It's really good for getting good light and shade on stage and getting the dynamics, especially from all the players when you're on a big stage. It doesn't just sound like you're playing on your own. So these are amazing. I've got an extender cable, a 1/4-inch adapter here coming out of my mixing desk, and these go straight into my ears. So when I'm mixing, I have a monitor next to me on stage, which I generally only use for my kick drum. A full band mix I get into these headphones, and also my backing track left and right and TM2 left and right are coming into these as well, which is, it sounds amazing. And you know, using this stuff, you can get a real quick, good setup happening on stage and a really quick, good sound on stage, which is really important. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you all got something out of it. Running backing tracks for me has been an essential part of being like a modern day touring drummer. So if you've got any questions, leave them in the comments section below. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Cheers.